In this video, I'm gonna give you guys 3 over-the-phone closes that will overcome some of the biggest objections you face with customers as a detailer. What's going on, guys? Luke here with Wilson Auto Detailing and AutoDetailer.com. If you are a detailer under $100,000 a year in revenue, this video will be hyper relevant for you because under 100K is really when you have to deal the most with overcoming objections because you're still trying to stabilize your lead flow, and when you're trying to stabilize lead flow, you're actually trying to decrease friction between the lead becoming a customer, okay? So when you supersede $100,000, you can start creating friction because you actually don't want to work with just everybody. And if people are objecting to price, it's actually an easy way to say no because you're doing more luxury services, blah, blah, blah. But in the more beginning stages, again, under 6 figures, if you don't know how to address some of these common objections over the phone, you are probably going to lose. Now, what I want to open up with here is how I answer the phone. And this is all within the context of somebody calling who's a new lead who wants some sort of traditional detailing done, like interior, exterior, or a complete detail. Almost 9 times out of 10, somebody is going to call and say, hey, I'm looking for an interior detail. I have a Chevy Silverado. What do you charge? If you do nothing else but take this one line to open up the conversation, it is going to help you close more customers. And it sounds just like this. Oh, hey customer, thank you so much for calling. For a Chevy Silverado, our prices start for interior only at blank. But do you mind if I go through a quick 60 seconds, ask you a few more questions about the condition of your vehicle? Because we like to do this with all new customers so that we can make sure we're giving you an accurate price over the phone. The reason why that answer is so effective is because, number one, it actually answers the question they're asking, which is when a customer says, what do you charge in the beginning of a conversation? What I've learned over time is that a lot of detailers interpret that as them saying, hey, you have to give me an exact price right now. And what they're actually looking for is a price anchor. If I can give them some sort of starting price and I qualify it saying that this is a starting price, it does 2 things. Number one, it gives them an anchor so that they have the capacity to move down the conversation further. But number 2, it gives me the leverage to raise the price later because, again, I qualified it saying it was a starting price. Secondly, the way I segued after giving the price actually eliminates the customer's ability to object to the price in the beginning part of the conversation, right? It sounds like this. Oh, hey customer, for a Chevy Silverado, our interiors start at $250, but do you mind if I ask you a few questions real quick? It'll take 60 seconds. We like to run through this with all new customers because we want to make sure we're giving you an accurate price over the phone. It completely eliminates their ability to object to the price because I'm keeping the price question loop open by giving them a starting price and then saying, I need more information from you to properly answer the question. And the reason why I need that information is actually for you. It's not for me. You want an accurate price, and this is what will allow us to give you an accurate price over the phone. And it's part of why basically no one says no to that. And 100% of people say, yeah, no, go ahead, because you're telling them this is how they're going to get an answer for the very thing that they're calling for anyways. The other thing that I want to slot in here is that it is actually important to say it takes about 60 seconds or it takes about 2 minutes, because if you don't, sometimes customers say, oh, no, I'm just kind of looking around, click. If you give them a quick 30-second, 60-second time frame, they don't object to anything and say, yeah, go ahead, it's totally fine. Now, the other thing I want to mention here is the reason why you want to avoid actually leaving room for any sort of a price objection on the front end of the conversation is because there's not been enough context laid in the conversation to object to price yet. And so if you're a detailer who is being asked the question on the front end of a conversation and it sounds like this, hey, Jason, how much do you charge for a Mini Cooper? And you just say, oh yeah, our prices start at $175. And you leave the silence right there, that person now is going to say, oh, that's not what I was looking to get done. It's more than I was expecting. Sorry, okay, I'm gone. I want to leave room to open more context, to talk through more things. I want them on the phone for a little bit longer, just for a little bit of sunk cost to be working in my favor. And frankly, because if you become good at talking to people over the phone, that skill at talking to people well and guiding the conversation builds a natural expertise and rapport so that when you're on the phone for 3 to 4 minutes, they actually just build this trust with you that is kind of subconscious. And when that trust is built, it makes all objection handling later easier to deal with. Now that's for the beginning of the conversation, and it's how you can naturally move the conversation forward. But let's get to the end of the conversation where most objections happen and where most detailers get really defensive and start saying things like, I'm not expensive. What? If you want the cheap guy, then you can just go to the cheap guy, okay? What's the most common type of objection that detailers face in the latter half of the conversation? It's going to be a pricing objection. So let's pretend like we're at the end of a conversation and I say, hey Nancy, thanks so much for answering those questions. Based on your answers, you're going to be looking at a price range of somewhere between $275 $225 and $315 for a complete detail on your Mini Cooper. If that works for you, let's go ahead and get you on the schedule. And she says, oh, you know what? I actually don't want to pay that. I had a guy do it like last year, and it was way less expensive than that. This is one very common form of a price objection. So the category I put it in is a price objection, but the more nuanced is it's a price objection specific to somebody saying they actually got it done cheaper somewhere else. Most detailers have no idea how to handle this. Here is the natural knee jerk that will move that conversation forward into a close anytime a customer says, wait a second, I saw somebody else who can do it for less. The only thing that needs to happen is actually a question. And the question sounds like this. Oh, Nancy, thanks for letting me know. What all was included in that price range that you did this detail for before? The reason why the most powerful thing to do is respond with that specific question is because your customer is telling you that your price is too expensive and somebody else did it for less. Unless we form some sort of external reference outside of just numbers of what those numbers are attached to in the form of an actual service offering, you actually cannot have the conversation, right? If she says, I had somebody do it for less, that's way too expensive, I'm not paying for this, and I respond to that objection with, well, yeah, I mean, I'm not that cheap, and if you want to get it right, you need to talk to me anyways, and that person probably didn't do a very good job. It's all conjecture, it's all hearsay. We're not talking about anything concrete. So anytime I'm dealing with an objection with a customer, if I want them to close, I bring it back to something I can refer to in the real world that's concrete. So it sounds like this. Hey customer, no, I totally get that. What all was included in that service offering and exactly what did you pay? Now, what you need to understand is that when you ask this question, most customers are not going to be able to answer what they paid, and they're not going to be able to say what was actually included. This is actually very powerful for us, and it also works in our favor because most customers come back with something like, well, Luke, I mean, I don't remember exactly what was done. He did it in like 2 hours. It was kind of in and out, but I think it was probably, closer to like 175 or 185. From what I remember, it was like $100 less than that. Then my immediate next move is very simple, and understand that all I'm doing is talking about something external that I can refer to in the concrete world yet again. And it sounds like this. Hey, customer, totally understand that. Sounds like the detail you got before was pretty quick and maybe it was about $100 less. Do you mind if I walk through everything that's included just really quickly with this detail so that you have a little bit more context of what you're getting? And that way we can make sure that this price and package is actually what you're looking for. Immediately, once again, we disarm the customer. We ask them a question in a way that they kind of can't refuse, because what we're saying is, hey, in order to better serve you, we would love to walk through what's included in here to make sure that what we're talking about in terms of price is actually what you want in the first place. And so people say, yes, of course, let's walk through what's included, because once again, they're on the phone with you because they want a solution to a problem. They have a dirty car and they want it detailed, right? So the fact that they're objecting to price is not because they don't want the job done. Everyone objects to price. It's like a bodyguard. They're trying to stay safe, right? They're trying to make sure that they don't make a decision that disappoints them in the future. So you have to start addressing these underlying issues. But the reason why I like to point to the services that are included here as the next move is because it gives me a concrete external reference to ground the conversation, where when I get through and I say service A, service B, service C, service D, then I can immediately follow up with, hey customer, based on all of these services that I've stacked up here and now talked to you about, and by the way, that is part of my strategy here. I actually want to stack on the services and go through a bunch of the additional value services that I provide in this detail. When I finish, I can say, Nancy, is this what you actually had done with the other guy last year? I just want to make sure that when we're talking about price, we're also properly comparing the package, because if this isn't what you want, then we can talk about something else. Now we're completely outside of price altogether. We're not even talking about numbers. We're talking about what I actually want to talk about, which is, hey Nancy, what do you want? What is the end result you're after? And the second I can get you to verbalize what that is, now I can attach a price to it, and you can't come back and say, oh, but this guy did this for this. Because if you only want me to match those exact services that other guy did that were far fewer, then we can actually have a conversation about a lower price, because now I can start removing prices from my service offering and I can logically step down the price to match that if it's something that works for me and I actually do want to work with this customer. But now the alternative is that we've stacked the value, we've stacked the services that are involved, we've compared to the guy that she used to go with and shown the difference in terms of the value she's getting over here with additional valued services, and now she has something to anchor the the price too, and she's no longer putting the two together and saying, wait a second, this is more expensive, this is less expensive, what gives? We now have a solid reference to have a conversation about price. Now, hopefully that sort of close/segue is helpful for you, because the price objection often presents itself as, hey, wait a second, I've seen other people that are cheaper than you. And so that's why I like that segue and close, where the immediate knee-jerk is not a response, but it's a question. Oh yeah, what's involved in that service package that you're talking about? Because you immediately pull it out of the price and you start talking about the value that the person is actually after. What are you paying for? And then you can have a real conversation. And once again, in that type of segue, customers often close themselves, right? Because when I get to the end of the conversation with Nancy, I've stacked all the services on top of each other. If she doesn't want all of those services, she now actually has to admit to herself and to me, oh, you offer this really grandiose detail, and yeah, it sounds really amazing, but I don't want that. I actually want a lesser version of that. And so it's helpful to actually force that issue, in that if people are going to force a lower price, then you're putting the conversation into a context where they're not just arbitrarily lowering the price, they're removing actual services, having to admit to you they want less done to their vehicle. It's a very powerful way to have somebody overcome their own price objection. Now, the next price objection I want to share with you guys is one that I use when I'm dealing with somebody who has basically a really nasty interior and exterior, and they do the exact same thing, which is like they're kind of price shopping, and you know that this interior or entire detail is just going to take some grunt work, and it's just going to take some time. And again, if you're in the beginning stages of your business, you're going to face a lot of this, and so having this objection overcome is going to be very helpful for you. So the way this presents when someone is objecting to price in this way is they often say something like, hey Luke, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, but like, I'm really not looking for like a $400 detail. I'm looking for like a $150 detail, and frankly, I've seen other people who can do it. And again, remember, this person who's saying that has a really disaster detail where you know there's just going to be some hours involved in fixing it. I actually have this one written down because it was something I used so often, so I'm going to read directly off of my script here. It sounds like this. Hey customer, I totally hear where you're coming from. Let me offer something that I think is going to help you make a better decision based on what you need. The reality is, the guy that you're talking about is going to charge you about $150 for a quick hour-and-a-half detail, which is what you're asking for. But because your car is so far gone and requires so many hours to bring it back to that original condition, I can tell you, as someone who's detailed thousands of cars at this point, not only are you going to be disappointed, but you actually won't be able to tell a difference when the guy gets done because of the current condition of your car. Unfortunately, unless he's willing to do the hard work and put in the hours, he won't make a dent. The problem is that you're going to have to pay $150, and we're assuming that he charges $150 for an hour and a half. That means he's $100 an hour. So if he did the job that's actually required here, and conservatively it took 4 hours, you're already paying him $400 for the detail. So I know it seems cheaper on the surface, but in true cost and headache, it's going to be a lot more expensive if you go with the cheaper guy. From an hourly rate perspective, the cheaper guy is actually more expensive than the quote I'm giving you right now, and the job won't be done properly when you pay that. The issue with not paying what I'm quoting you, which is what I see a lot of customers get themselves into, is paying what they wanted to pay with the cheaper guy, not getting what they wanted, feeling like they totally wasted $150, and then being forced to either keep driving the dirty car that stresses them out every day, or shell out another $375 to make sure the problem gets fixed this time, and you're out more money than you had to be. Now, I'm reading from the script because I actually scripted out every word of that, and it sounds a little bit more elegant when I put it all together. But once again, this is something very common with guys who are wanting a disaster detail done for cheap. The first move that needs to be made here is to actually quantify in an hourly rate that cheaper guy, because whatever that $150 guy is going to do, it's going to take him about an hour and a half. And it's important to put that next to the actual condition of the car on the phone call conversation with the customer and say, hey, listen, this is actually not a matter of skill. This is a matter of hours. That's what has to be explained to the customer. It's not a matter of chemicals, skill, or anything like that. This is a matter of hours. The condition of the car is so far gone, unless we put in at least 3.5 to 4.5 hours here, you're actually not even going to see that the car was detailed. That's the frame we want to be speaking to the customer in, because now we can very rationally put the other price for the cheaper guy in an hourly rate perspective and say, hey, listen, based on that price and what's really required here, he would actually be more expensive. And he's not quoting you that more expensive price because he's just trying to get a little bit of money, never see you again, and be able to walk away. And unfortunately, we've seen this happen time and time again. For disaster details like this, we actually don't charge an hourly rate like we do like those other guys where it's $100, $150 an hour. In fact, because we know that it's going to be X amount of hours. Our hourly rate sits more around 75 or 85, and ultimately, or in absolute payment, it comes out to be lower than those other guys, and you can guarantee you're going to get what is required. It's that reframing that actually allows the customer to walk through a different decision-making framework and have a different type of conversation, because you're not hitting it from price, you're hitting it from kind of left field and right field and bringing in a bit of a different dimension here. So once again, walk out of price, explain that this is a time problem to fix, not a skill or cost problem. The second we frame it in time, we can now pull the lower price into an hourly rate perspective, compare it to our hourly rate perspective, position ourselves as even less expensive than that guy, but we guarantee that it's going to be done right. And the fact that it's more expensive on the front end is actually just because of labor and time. It has nothing to do with skill or deficit or anything like that. And that's actually something that makes people trust you, because what you're saying is, you could do that, and frankly, we wish we could get this done in an hour and a half, but because we know we can't, we have to charge accordingly for the time. So to guarantee the result, here's what it's going to cost. And like I said, it's actually less expensive if you actually want what you're saying, which is your car to be restored to that highest level of perfection within the realm of possibility. Does that make sense? And then the customer has to sit with themselves and decide, oh, do I want to guarantee? Do I want to get what I'm actually saying I want? Or do I want to go back over here and basically get what I'm saying I don't want? Now, the last close that I like to use is actually one where, once again, if I'm dealing with a customer that I just really want to close, and this is something I pull out kind of at the end of the conversation, because oftentimes you might actually have to overcome more than just one objection. So pricing objections kind of come out or manifest in all of these different ways, and you have to hit them from different angles. And so once again, just as a disclaimer, as you scale in your business, it's actually okay to let some of these leads go and create some friction actually that people have to overcome to become a customer, because it's a great qualifying and filtering mechanism. But what I'm talking about is, if you're under 100,000 in revenue, you probably would like to be closing more customers than you are. And so I'm giving you as much ammunition as is possible. And this is what I call the hypothetical close. Once again, it works after you've kind of overcome some other things. And it sounds like this. Hey, Nancy, if hypothetically you could guarantee that when you spend this $250 with us, your car is going to look and feel exactly how you want it to look and feel when you're done, and maybe even better, would you go ahead and book and just jump on the schedule? And what you're looking for here is for people to say yes, because most reasonable people say, well, yeah, I mean, I guess if I could guarantee that, and maybe it's even a little better than what I could predict, yeah, I'd like go ahead and shell out the money. When someone says that, it's actually an indication to me that there's some sort of trust deficit, because what they're saying is, yeah, I don't trust that this will happen, and that's kind of what's keeping me from paying. And as soon as I get a yes, here's what I like to move into. And people call these different things, like if you go to sales training, they call them different things. I like to call them admitting obvious guilt, okay? Here's what it kind of sounds like. And I'll read you my exact script so you guys can actually hear how this sounds if you just read it over the phone. Listen, Nancy, I know there are a ton of detailers who way overpromise and way underdeliver, and you have to pay either way, even if you don't feel like the job really got done. Here's the bottom line. I don't have a magic wand that I can wave over your car to make all the small damage go away, clean it up in 10 seconds, and prepare it to be put into a museum. But I know for a fact that I can and will bring it back to the highest level of perfection that's within the realm of possibility for your specific car. And my goal is to make sure that in the future, when you think of a detailer, I'm the only one that comes to mind. I want you as a customer for life. Now, all that being said, if you're still set on trying to find someone who can do it for less, or you have someone else in mind, I'll tell you what. I will help you get exactly what you need. Send me the website of the guy that you want to go with, and I'll comb through it. I'll see what they're charging and what they're going to give you, so that you can ensure that you're getting exactly what you need without the fear of getting a halfway job done. Now, here's why this works so well. After I've tried to hit some price objections from different angles, this is the one I like to pull out, because when I get a yes, hypothetically, I would give you my money if I knew that this was going to happen, then I like going into what I call, again, those admissions of obvious guilt, or admissions of apparent guilt, because what I said was not anything that she didn't already know. I said, listen, Nancy, I know a lot of people overpromise and underdeliver, and you're caught on the hook paying whether you get what you want or not. I'm not a wizard. I don't have a magic wand. I can't wave it over your car and in 10 seconds make it perfect. But here's what we can do. Even though she already knows that. She knows I'm not a wizard. She knows there's no magic. When I say it out loud, and I actually admit that I'm a human just like she is, and I have limitations just like she does, a little door of trust opens, because you're you're just being a human. And that's why most people will try to go in for the jugular after they say something like that. And I actually like doing the opposite. After that little window of trust opens, I like to say, so you know what? If you're still dead set on using somebody else and paying the cheaper guy, send me their contact info, send me the website. I want to make sure you get what you need. So let me comb through the website, the prices and the services, and based on our conversation, I'll kind of tailor what you might want to ask him so that you can make sure you're getting what you need. Sound fair? Does that make sense to you? Would that be something you want? And here's the deal. At this point in the conversation, the reason this is so powerful is because we actually have overcome some other things, but they're still hesitant. And this is our way of basically saying, I'm willing to let you go and even help you. But we've stacked so much trust before we've done this that it's very easy for the person at that point to say, no, you know what? Let's just get it on the schedule. I want to go ahead and get this done. We've been talking for 10 minutes. I really appreciate you saying all. I appreciate the fact that you'd be willing to help me. Let's just do it. And this is honestly not even a sales tactic, right? It's just being a good person and actually being willing to do that if they said, yeah, that would be really helpful. Because even if they said, yeah, I want to go for this cheaper guy, and you actually do help them get what they want, what you would hope for is that you helped them get what they want with that cheaper guy. The cheaper guy does it. They're disappointed, and you're the next person they call because their experience confirmed what you guys were talking about on the phone. And that's what I call the hypothetical close. Guys, hopefully this video was helpful as always. And if you want to grab all of the tools and products I suggest for beginner detailers, go to wilsonautodetailing.com below and grab the Pro Detailing Toolbox. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. And from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing and autodetailer.com, remember, a great detailer is always learning, and I'll see you in the next video.